Hey guys, my name is William Coy Evans. You can just call me Coy, that's what I go by. And today I'll be presenting a comparative analysis of two major data privacy laws. The General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, and the California Consumer Privacy Act, known as the CCPA. These two regulations represent significant efforts to protect personal data and give individuals more control over how their information is collected, stored, and shared in the digital world. This presentation will walk through the background, case studies, legal gaps, ethical concerns, and proposed solutions related to these two privacy laws. Data privacy is a crucial concern in today's digital landscape. Every day, companies and organizations collect vast amounts of personal data from your names and email addresses to location tracking and behavioral habits. The core of data privacy is the right of individuals to control this data and understand how it is being used. As more services shift online, protecting this data becomes even more important. This presentation explores how GDPR and CCPA aim to address this issue. We'll look at their origins, their effectiveness, and the challenges they face in balancing innovation, consumer protection, and corporate responsibility. The GDPR was enacted by the European Union, and it became enforceable in 2018. It applies to any company that handles the data of EU citizens, even if the company is based outside of Europe. The key provisions include the right to access, correct, delete, and port personal data. The law also mandates clear consent and harsh penalties for noncompliance. On the other hand, the CCPA, which took effect in 2020, focuses on California residents. It gives them the right to know what data is collected, opt out of its sale, and request its deletion. While similar in spirit, the two laws differ significantly in scope and enforcement. There are several key differences between GDPR and CCPA. GDPR requires explicit opt-in consent before data collection, while CCPA mainly offers an opt-out model. GDPR applies globally to anyone processing EU data, whereas CCPA is limited to for-profit businesses meeting specific thresholds. The other major difference lies in enforcement. GDPR penalties can reach up to 4% of global revenue, while CCPA fines are much smaller and more limited. Additionally, GDPR provides broader definitions of personal data, including things like IP addresses and online identifiers, which CCPA does not always include. When you're discussing data privacy regulation, it's pretty important to understand who's involved. Government agencies such as the European Data Protection Board and the California Attorney General play a huge role in enforcing these laws. Businesses, especially large tech companies, are directly impacted and must build compliance into their operations. Civil society groups advocate for stronger consumer protection, while the public, the everyday users like you and me, are the ones whose data is at most stake. Each group has a unique interest in how privacy policies are written and enforced. In 2023, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, was fined 1.2 billion euros by Ireland's Data Protection Commission under the GDPR. The penalty was issued for Meta's continued transfer of European user data to the United States using outdated legal mechanisms, despite a court ruling that invalidated the EU to US Privacy Shield Agreement. This was the largest GDPR fine ever issued, and it demonstrated that European regulators are willing to go after major tech companies. It also signaled the importance of strict enforcement when companies do not adequately protect cross-border data transfers. In 2022, Sephora became the first company fined under the CCPA. The California Attorney General's office issued a $1.2 million settlement because Sephora failed to disclose it was selling personal data through third-party trackers and did not honor opt-out requests properly. The company also didn't fix the violations within the required 30-day cure period. This case marked a major turning point for privacy enforcement in the United States, showing that even non-breach violations like poor cookie management can result in financial penalties, and steep ones at that. It encouraged businesses to take California's privacy laws more seriously, for sure. When comparing effectiveness, GDPR has been more aggressively enforced, with multiple large-scale fines and global influence. Consumer awareness is also higher in Europe, partly due to the GDPR's visible consent barriers and education campaigns. In contrast, CCPA enforcement is still developing. Many Californians aren't even aware of their rights under the law. Businesses face stricter obligations under the GDPR, such as the need to appoint data protection officers, while CCPA compliance is more flexible. Overall, GDPR has a larger global impact through CCPA is helping move U.S. privacy standards forward. Both laws face significant gaps. For one, there's no consistent global standard, making it hard for international businesses to comply with various regional laws. Enforcement resources are stretched thin, especially in the United States. Not all companies are held equally accountable. Additionally, neither law fully addresses emerging technologies like artificial intelligence or biometric surveillance. Privacy policies remain difficult for users to understand, and many people don't know how to exercise their rights. Lastly, businesses can sometimes technically comply with law, while still engaging in manipulative data practices that undermine user autonomy. There are many loopholes to this. To address these challenges, I propose several policy solutions. First, the United States should pass a comprehensive federal data privacy law to replace the current patchwork of state regulations. Second, both GDPR and CCPA could improve by inspecting consent requirements and covering newer technologies like AI. Third, enforcement agencies should need more resources to investigate and penalize these violations. We should also encourage global cooperation to reduce confusion for businesses, more like a uniform standard. Finally, companies should be required to follow data minimization principles, only collecting what's necessary, and adopt ethical data design from the start. Beyond these legal rules, there are deep ethical issues to consider. Not all users understand or can manage their privacy settings, putting vulnerable groups at risk. Data can and will also feed biased algorithms that discriminate based on race or gender. Companies often hide data practices behind vague language, which makes transparency difficult. While privacy laws aim to protect users, overly complex interfaces can create consent fatigue, where people agree to things just to move on. Ethical data policies must go beyond compliance. They should focus on fairness, inclusion, and long-term human impact. For policymakers, the priority should be to pass a clear national privacy law with strong enforcement and user protections. For industry leaders, businesses should implement privacy by design, by embedding data protection into the core of their products. They should also provide better tools and education to their users. For the public, it's important to stay informed about privacy rights and advocate for stronger regulations. Collaboration between all these groups is absolutely necessary to create data policies that work in today's connected world. To wrap it up, GDPR and CCPA represent two major approaches to protecting personal data in the 21st century. GDPR has set a global standard, while CCPA is a key step for the United States, although it should be federally enforced throughout the entire country, in my opinion. Both laws have strengths and weaknesses, but they share a common goal: giving people more control over their digital lives. Moving forward, we need laws that are adaptable, enforceable, and fair. We must also consider the human impact of technology to ensure that innovation benefits everyone, not just those who build or profit off of it. This presentation was informed by a variety of sources, including the official text of the GDPR and CCPA, a whole bunch of real-world case studies, and academic analysis. A full list of APA formatted references is provided in this slide.